All right, we're live. What's up, everybody? So, another impromptu podcast, but we got two very special guests to talk about fighting, events, life, floral design. I don't know what these guys want to talk to me about, but we have Tuhon Belton and we have Datu Kelly Worden. Gentlemen, what's up? Welcome to the show.
Hello. I see you, Belton.
We're live. We're live. Datu, we're here because you wanted to talk about the water and steel.
Well, yeah, definitely coming up Labor Day weekend. You know, people go, "Why is it Labor Day weekend?" I guess that was the weekend my first wife had off, and that's when we put it together, like 43 years ago. So at that time, it was Warrior Retreat in the mountains of Wenatchee, just below Mission Ridge, the ski resort. And we got an old Boy Scout camp. And yeah, you know, open flame cooking, all that stuff. And yeah, it was real, you know, real primitive type of thing. I actually had an old U-Haul van, and I'd load my boxing ring up and drive it from Tacoma over to Wenatchee through I-5 Pass and then over Blewett Pass, and you know, set it up in the hills, up in the mountains for 3 days. And yeah, that was some of the first competition stuff we did. We did a round robin. You could do point karate, or you could do continuous sparring, no cup, no mouthpiece, no control. And you could do stick work and takedowns. Everything was legal. And yeah, it was pretty intense, man. There was some cool stuff. Keating came to that. Bob Anderson. That was really the first trilogy of instructors. Later on, we added Joe Simonette. I ain't gonna say it was a mistake, but it was an experience. How about that? You know,
I'm gonna cut you off there for a second and talk to one of your returning instructors, right?
Who's
Belton.
that?
Belton.
Belton? Oh my God! Yeah, he's more than a returning instructor. Jeez, he's a main instructor.
He's a main instructor.
Yeah.
Bro, like, what was it about this event that gravitated you towards it? Why do you keep coming back? Tell me about the community.
I asked Datu the same thing, like, why Labor Day weekend? And one of the water and steel camps, my wife was giving birth, and Datu goes, "We have a doctor there, so don't worry about it. Just still come." I was like, Datu, my wife would kill me. But when I first went to water and steel, geez, I don't even know how many years ago. I didn't have any idea what I was coming into. I mean, I had an idea, but to get to water and steel was like a buffet of, I don't even want to just say FMA, because we had Aikido masters, we had Gung Fu, we had all kinds of people. And the cool thing is, I mean, there was not enough time in the day. I mean, we were constantly training in the morning all the evening, and one instructor would come through. So Datu always starts off the day, obviously, and then he ends the day, or ends it before lunch, and then he'll end the day. But it was just a plethora, if that's a proper word, of just everything from staff to boxing to knife, single knife, double knife, empty hand, dumog, you name it, it's there. And the cadre of people that were present is just high level. It's almost like I want to call it the black belt camp of black belts, type of thing. If people relate to that.
It's got an old school, like it almost feels like it should be out in the Kung Fu mountains in China, where it's like Datu Kelly Worden blows the horn, and then all of these masters come. It has that vibe, doesn't it?
It does. And the cool thing about it, no matter who was who, everybody was there was no ego, because at any time, I mean, not that we did that, but you could get power checked by a guy that next to you that you don't know who he is. You don't know his background. You don't know if he's currently serving. You don't know anything about these guys. So we treat each other with respect. You know who the main guys are, but outside of that, people are coming in from all walks of life and all backgrounds, and touching hands with that many people with that diverse of a background is quite an experience. Because typically you go to a seminar, it's like, oh, I'm doing a Wing Chun seminar. I'm doing a Muay Thai seminar. It's the seminar that you came there for that particular subject. that art, whatever it is. And then suddenly you're getting at 9 a.m. this, at 10 a.m. that, 11 a.m. And you're like, whoa, dude, that's awesome. And people are just, and the cool thing is one of Datu's main sayings is connecting the systems. And you really, so the cool thing is, and I'll have to give you props for this, Datu, any instructor can go before Datu. In the end, he'll actually take everything everybody did and just go whoop, and he'll just go, there you go. That's how you connect the systems. And that's probably the best part about camp is just how you can present. The first guy can present XYZ. The second guy can present this. Right. Third guy, and Datu will be like, bam, here's your foot trap. Here's your boxing. Here's your Muay Thai. And then check it out. Look, here's your single knife. Deploy this. Here's your empty hand. And your brain just, I mean, you have a good headache for days, and you get the camp blues. You really get the camp blues afterwards.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Datu, what do you hope this camp gets to be remembered as? Because this is a pretty long running camp, right? Like how many years in a row?
Yeah, like we started in the mountains of Wenatchee, of course. So it was the Warrior Retreat, and when we transitioned to the Pacific coast over here, it was on Tanglewood Island. Well, that was pretty treacherous because there were small dinghies, and then the island caretaker, he drank after noon or 1 o'clock, and so the water in there got pretty treacherous as far as riptides and so on and so forth. And so yeah, you had to park your car over on that side and wait for the boat, right? And the boatman was half the time shit-faced in the afternoon or evening. Of course, then I decided, well, I'm taking my boat over, and we handled a lot of that way. But so it was at Tanglewood, and then I just decided we need to protect our belongings in the vehicle. 2 o'clock in the morning, somebody's popping somebody's trunk or something, and we're going to swim over there to find out what the alarm's about. So we got a different island. That's when we got to the All Saints Center, and I was like, oh man, All Saints Center. So I kind of waded into that. Well, we're going to do some martial arts. We train in knives. Oh, my husband's into guns and knives too. And I'm like, all right. We've been there for 20 some plus years, and so total together it's 43 years.
Now, are you getting tired of doing this? Like, where's your head at? I mean,
it is that. I don't know if it's tired of it. Last year we had an amazing chef, but we got stiffed like serious. We've always had a great chef, and so this year we got a different chef, one that probably ain't gonna stiff me, but it's always gourmet food and that type of thing. So I guess if anything, the expenses, because Martine was longtime SEOC, and they basically get together in a cow pasture and give you a bag lunch, and you go find your hotel or you sleep wherever you're going to. We provide those certain things. And then if you decide that you want to go to a bed and breakfast, we adjust that. You're only now paying for the training, maybe not even the meals, because you decided to bring your own cooler. So, I just adjust the camp. It's just an interesting challenge,
This is a question for, let's say it's for you, Tuhon, Belton. Why are those meals important? Like, why is eating together important for a camp like this?
A lot of times after you touch hands with so many people and you're busy paying respect to the instructor and listening to the format and whatnot, that's a fellowship. It's brotherhood time. And so you're sitting down, you're sharing stories, and you're like, hey man, how you doing? Like, you don't know the guy, and and you start to talk to them. You might find out they're from Michigan or Wisconsin, and they came there because they heard from a friend of a friend, and the relationship building. I mean, you can have a guy show up at camp and not see him for 5 years, and you feel like you just know the guy the rest of your life.
Yeah, man.
You put so much of that time, hitting each other with sweat, blood, and tears type of thing, that you develop that relationship. And then even after the dinner, sometimes guys just want to hang out a little bit more and have just have a couple of drinks and chill and talk and share stories. That's like to me, that reminds me even some of the old Filipino days of like the grandfathers would get their banjos and their guitars and they would play, and then have the barbecue going, and you develop strong relationships for life. Nowadays we're so busy that it's like, how you doing? Good. I mean, no, you're not good. So I think it's important for that, and to kind of find out what's out there, and how the art's been spreading, and learn really who's who, and find out what's going on in the world, and you develop these relationships that you can, it builds the network. And so I think that's awesome.
Hey, I'm going to play a couple of clips from the documentation that I did from the 39th, right? I'm not sure if you guys have seen the whole thing, but as a special offer, anyone who registers this year will get a free copy of this full documentation. And this will give you an idea just about like how huge the scope of the topic. So I'm going to play, this is from day 1, chapter 7. Probably not going to play the whole thing. This is about positional alignment and dominance. I haven't seen a lot of this stuff in a while, so this will be a treat for me as well. I'm just going to play a little bit of this. You guys hear that okay?
I can see some words on the screen.
Hold on. Okay. My bad. I am playing the wrong one. This is the one.
Okay, so watch Charlie and Steve. What's most important is watch the transition and shifting of balance and stability when he's closing. Each one of his 3 punches is a valid punch. And at the same time, it's also a place of assessment depending on the response of the reaction or the impact of where he could go next. So it's his choice. But in this case, he's just maximizing and staying on top of with 3 punches. Let's see it. Let's go. Okay, a couple of those. See, we're not worried about stance work or anything else. It's just his natural agility that's telling him to, compensate when his weight goes forward with that maximum power. Compensate and bring your other foot up with you. So we're back to playing basketball. I'm just learning how to punch, and I can punch on this guy and not lose track because I'm not overly committed. I'm just closing and then keeping my feet underneath me. So if I close again, now I can move around and gain position. Knee spike hit, great place. He got hair on his back. That should be 10. I kind of want that Roger Rabbit moment, like where we're going around you so that you're not jumped and you're not tunnel vision. You don't have audio exclusion because of the yelling and the screaming and all the confusion that's going around. You got to know what's going on. Positional alignment as I hit. 1, 2, 3. I got to distract, hit him in the nuts, move, reassess. See, again, I'm not looking.
All right. So at the beginning of that clip, it looked like chain punch. Is that accurate from G?
Exactly. Yeah. Jesse stuff. It's Jesse Glover stuff. Yeah.
And then he got into something else, right? There's so much context. You talk about how this can apply to bar fights. You talk about it, the principle of alignment. For me, when I was first there, it was my mind was absolutely blown, because the beginning of an instruction may be like, oh, I'm learning some classical stuff here, and then it's like, oh, this is how it applies to a bar. This is how it applies to firearms. This is how it applies to knife work. Talk to me about that philosophy of sort of connecting the dots and taking what appears to be some classical technique into the wide world of, self-defense and the
Go ahead,
street.
Belton. You got it, Belton.
Yeah, ever since being with Datu, I feel like I've been granted, and I use this example all the time, granted permission to think outside the box. I do other systems, I do other arts, and it's always kind of like it's here, it's in a package, and Datu kind of broke those barriers for me, and now every time I'm in a seminar, I try to make those connections to the other arts that I do and or have experience. And because of that, camp does that. It kind of just I think we're all built with some biases in life and in general and in everything. And I think Datu kind of broke that for me. So now I question a lot of things in a healthy manner to where I'm like, hey, where does this apply? What can I do here? I'm gonna go back to some of my boxing. I'm gonna mix this in, and I've been dabbling and playing with all these other things to it. All it does is evolving myself as a martial artist. Now, granted, the basics and foundation are always still there, but it has really opened up my eyes, and that's water and steel for you in a nutshell. And when you, again, like I said, sometimes a presenter will come and teach a traditional set, and these classical traditional lines or systems. Datu will you're it's almost like he lifts a veil from your eyes, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's a Aikido wrist lock. Why didn't I even think of, how's that? Why didn't I even think of that? So, but then Datu will also find ways to enter, talks about range management, yada yada. And here's a crazy part. I talk about that all the time with my fighters, and I train Muay Thai fighters. In fact, I'm going to Italy right now to coach a USA team for Muay Thai. But Worden
Congratulations on that, by the way. That's huge.
Worden Defense Concepts are there all the time. If you videotape some of my classes, it's like Datu speaking through me a couple of times and just saying stuff, guys, manage your range. But sometimes other people, other grandmasters and other systems will say it differently. They'll just say, kick, step forward and kick. To me, it's all range management, and I got those words from Datu. So, being involved with Datu, being a senior instructor, but regardless whether you're part of NSI or Worden Defense and you come to camp, you're gonna get the same thing. It's just after a while, it's ingrained in me now. You can throw me any art and I can make a connection. Even a grappling art, there's footwork, and people are like, no, you're on your back. I'm like, no, there's footwork. Trust me. So, all that stuff is there, and camp does that. And I say, give me permission. I sit there when I go to another seminar and I absorb material, but my brain starts operating differently. And I don't think I would have had that if I stayed traditional and classical in that sense. I think I would have been like, whoosh, and just kind of like, yes, angle 1, angle 2, yes, drill number 32. To me, it's not even a drill anymore. It's concepts and principles.
Yeah, look what we're watching here. It was a little bit distracting trying to balance out watching these visuals with listening to you. I totally got what you were saying, but all right, let me challenge that concept. In this video, Datu is talking about Sinawali, and the title of the video is "Everything is Sinawali" or something along those lines.
Well, on that note, when actually Joe Simonet was training with me, he came in for a Ramey Price's seminar, and I had initially met him at an Inosanto seminar, and he was struggling with some of the stuff. And we all know that some of Guru Dan's group are very, territorial, that type of thing. Joe's a real skilled Kempo guy. So anyway, he's struggling along, and I was an outsider at the Inosanto group, classical, because I was a Prasis guy. And so he just came up to me and goes, what is going on? Well, just do this, do this, do this, do this. And I was there for a half a day and I was gone. And so next thing you know, I'm bringing Ramey in, and he calls up and, hey, I want to come to that seminar. And okay, so we talked for a little bit. He hung up the phone and he went and told his students, I just talked to myself. Meaning he was a conceptual thinker. And when he connected back with me, he showed up at the seminar and he's like, you're that guy that was at Inosanto's, and, opened my eyes to just doing stick work and, that type of stuff. So it's interesting how that works. And in that regard, when I started working out with Jesse, well, Simonet was training with Chris Charnos, one of Ed Hart's senior students, and also training with Jesse. And now I'm throwing my stick down. But anyway, so Joe lived in Eastern Washington. Charnos was here. He said, go see this guy. So that was my connection to Ed and then to Jesse. And so Jesse kind of said, well, I really don't want you overly commercializing what I show you. And so I taught it through Filipino martial arts. This is straight blast. When you're doing puño, swinging gait, that type of thing, you transition that right into gung fu. And so I hid all of the gung fu into the arnis, literally connecting the dots. Ed Hart, who was Bruce Lee's second student and Jesse's roommate, he was just like, oh, damn, how'd you put so much stuff together? And it's so diverse. And then Jesse couldn't be pissed off at me because, yeah, that was pretty good. You hid that right in there, but I couldn't take it out. How am I going to take it out when it's such a key essential element to bridge, to close from boxing or Muay Thai or kickboxing, then into your Gung Fu, now your Filipino live hand. So I was going to say about that sequence where Charlie started was, to me, that is the dirty boxing. People get offended because you call it Filipino dirty boxing. But if you didn't correlate it or connect it or give credit to the Filipino art, then they'd be pissed off about that too, right? So, I mean, single Sinawali, wow, when you're doing that, all you're doing is classical karate, only it's alive. The distinction there is, where's the aliveness? How does it connect to Gung Fu? How does it work to your boxing? How does it work to your silat? Good karate is good silat. Good silat is good karate. I mean, you just have to absorb what's useful and then make it your own. And so, yeah, man, that's a lot to swallow, but it's not, because you're relating it all together. And it, the same thing, when I was around with Keating and the Kajikembo guys, they're already a mixed blend of different arts. So we don't see it that way. I don't see it that way. I'm not distinctly doing this, that's how Lemenko was formulated. Was he had Corto, Medio, and Largo, and different instructors opened their eyes and sent Edgar to different teachers so he could perfect those different ranges, because he represented. He didn't isolate and claim. He represented all those arts as a unified methodology, and that's what made Edgar so special. And he was really close, of course, with Professor Trigg, and again, Trigg's such a blessing in so many ways. Nobody knows anything about him, and he likes it that way. He's a covert operative, and he would just soon give everybody else credit. But boy, what a he's like Guru Dan. He's a genius when it comes to perfecting the art.
That was pretty intense watching him teach for the first time. What a treat. Tuhon Belton, or Akru Yai Belton, where does Sinawali manifest in Muay Thai? I'm just kind of throwing questions at you guys here, right?
Yeah. So when you look at Muay Thai and you look at outside lines, inside lines, and if you look at a low inside leg kick to set up and disrupt the base and to get your back, you see, the Muay Thai is being judged in five things, and I call them the 5 Ds: domination, duration. You have your cardio, disturbance of balance, defense, and damage. And a lot of times for my fighters, I'm like, hey, you got to disturb their balance. Well, a low line shot to the inside leg thigh, and then coming back up top with the right hand and coming with the left hand. I mean, those are just classical lines. And so, it opens my eyes as an instructor, and I teach it maybe in the Muay Thai context. But every now and then, when I have just my little bit of my moment of my pedestal moment, I get up there and I talk about FMA. Sometimes there's an FMA guy, then I'll bring them up and just show the correlation. And it's pretty cool when they just kind of look and go, did he just relate those two hearts? I'm like, yeah, So it's really cool. And I think if there was a class called Connecting the Systems, I would do that. But I like to teach the arts separately, and then I like them to kind of figure out themselves and have a self-expression, because I think I firmly believe a good foundation is great. But again, there's danger in that too. Like you get boxed in, and you start adopting and you succumb to these rule sets that.
Yeah,
I don't even know where these rule sets came from, but it's kind of like you're getting your hand slapped, and you're like, whoa. I can never do that. I go, since when? So, one thing I always reference too is, again, I'll always reference Datu, because I'm like, you can't tell me. You can't tell me I can't. I'm an NSI guy, Worden defense guy. In fact, I think what really shown is, GM Bobby, invited Datu to my testing, but you know, when he sat there, and then on my level 5 and level 6, Datu was there for both of them, and you know, they became great friends, and it's such a good relationship between those two. On my 7, if you look at the expression of my 7, it didn't stay within the Bolinta context. It started
For those
out.
who don't know, by the way, your level 7 testing is where you are mandated to create something like 24 new techniques,
Yes,
right?
yes. You can create 24 new you have to create 24 new techniques. You have to present it. And at that time, GM asked me to wait. Having had FMA systems before, I was like, I'm ready to test. I can come up with anything on the spot. But I was told by Guru John, you know, just let it marinate a little bit. You know, you'll appreciate it. Plus, you know, you don't want to be that guy who's just, I come up with 24 techniques in 2 months. So I waited, and then GM shows up, and he's like, hey, I would like you to perform on my birthday. And I was like, yes, sir. I'll wait another year. But I was so glad I did, because GM Nick Elazar was there, Nene Gabakai. I mean, the Eagle's Nest of Balintawak was there, and they really got to see the self-expression, meaning I had 24 techniques, but I had probably 75 plus, because for every one technique, I had 3 variations. Sure. Again, connecting the systems. And if I didn't have that mindset, I would have never come up with that. And it's to the point now, the last Balintawak seminar that just happened here in Seattle, our mini camp, Guru John was like, okay, you know, I'll start it off, and then Guru Josh Farham will start it second and just close it. He goes, what are you going to do? I go, what are you guys going to do? And so he goes,
what I'm going to do.
So you do what you do. And what I did was I expounded on each of their presentations, and I kind of just did that. And pretty soon, I was referencing, here you go. Here's some PTK stuff. Hey, check it out. Here's interior line roll with Datu stuff. And it just kind of started flourishing. Again, building on concepts and principles, not getting stuck in a box. I would not have had that if I didn't have Datu many years ago at Sigong Bastilio introducing us. Actually, it's because of Richard Bastilio how I knew Datu. And he did the same thing with Joseph Simonet to me, like, hey man, you want to partner up? And he was like, you could do this, you could do that, you could do this. And I'm like, what the hell? We're supposed to be in the seminar. Why are you showing me 17 million combinations? And I was just enthralled.
Man, the difficulty in having a conversation with both of you guys at the same time is that my mind is like, it's just I have a million questions, right? And I don't want to cut you off, but Datu Kelly, real quick question for you. What value do you find, or what do you appreciate about Balintawak as a system?
Oh, well, you know, it really is knife if you look at it. See, you know, when you go to the Tappy of Praesus, it was a formulation of Balintawak when he was formulating it from what he got from Bakan directly. Then he's left-handed, so everything is a switch from there. See, with knife, there is no counter. It's just attack by draw, then negate and neutralize. And a lot of times on knife sparring and things like that, you don't get the reality of the emotional duress, right? So when I was teaching Fort Lewis, First Special Forces, it's like every time you get nicked, say, oh shit, because that's really what's happening. Or how we also attributed the psychological and emotional duress of an impact was through accidents. Oh man, popped him in the face, and he paused for a second. Okay, cool. How long did he have to hit you 6 more times? If that one shot neutralized you enough for just even to say, oh God, or just stop, how many more times could he have hit you if his combinations were flowing, you know? So when you look at Balintawak and you look at the Tappy of Professor Praesus, it really is that neurological neutralization of physical actions or your response. And that's where, you know, a shot from Tyson neutralizes you just enough to pop, break that rhythm and continue your progressions. Then the broken rhythms, you're a beat behind each one of those because you're responding. By the time you're reacting and responding, that's when the second, the third, fourth hit come. And damn, next thing you know, if you're playing, you know, high art and low art, you got a foot trap, you're tumbling and falling over, and whoever's in the game is now seeking positional control on his 6 or aligning to where, what was this guy, just a setup guy? And you know, so mobility becomes a factor, or it's a finishing line. But usually if you're engaging right and you're integrating that low art, the finishing line is him landing on the fucking ground and trying to pick his ass up where you're 20 feet away, or you're deploying a weapon because you're anticipating more aggressive behavior at another level. So, I just love all the art.
Bolinta walk. When you see Bolinta walk, you think the knife art.
I do. Yeah. Because it's all attack by draw, and I also seek Wing Chun. I see that, and not so much Wing Chun. I had a lot of Wing Chun students, but my influence comes from Jesse because I wasn't bound by the style. He just did stuff. That's what he called it. It was stuff because he didn't even want to be bound by the Wing Chun because he was a judo guy, and Ed, his roommate, and Bruce, the second student, both were judo partners. That's where they met. But Ed was a serious boxer. He was 6'2", wiry like Clint Eastwood, and he had a lot of power. So he could, when you seen from the boxing to the closing of the gung fu, that's a good story. Bruce wouldn't let. They trained in Ed and Jesse's apartment, and Bruce didn't want anybody around. Well, shit, Ed was 33 or something like that, and Jesse was 28, and Bruce was 18. It's like, how's this little shit telling me where I can be, And finally, Bruce said, yeah, let your roommate come in. So, Ed was a smoker, taking a drag off his cigarette, a sip off a beer, and he goes, okay, dude, I'm going to snap your head back because Ed had a reach. So Bruce said, show me your jab, and, pop. He goes, okay, hit me. Hey, if I hit you, I'm going to tear your head off. No, just hit me. And Ed threw a quick jab, bang, and Bruce would, bah, this peacock fist, I kick your eye out. And Ed was like, what the fuck? And because, again, he came in at the right time of the industry where trapping and attacking the hands wasn't necessarily a primary strategy. So Bruce came in at a developmental void of what we were doing. We had karate, we had boxing, but we weren't really having that mobility factor. This was 57, 58. So the mobility factor on boxing was still kind of rock'em sock'em robots. And then the karate was very linear. Judo had some mobility, but that was mostly in closing without extreme striking, that type of thing. So so Ed says, oh man, I can't, another sip of beer. He goes, let me see you do that again. And he changed the line a little bit, but Ed was like, okay, I could do this, so that's how Ed became Bruce's second student. And again, they just called it stuff. They didn't want to call it JKD. They didn't want to call it gung fu. They call it sticking, like, hey, I'm sticking to you. So, and that was part of boxing and the clinch. So that was correlation right there was coming from the clinch, and then the judo. And
a whole lot of stuff sort of almost losing definition and all becoming one thing. Tuhon, Belton, you had a smile on your face when Datu Kelly said that Bolinta walk is a knife system, because that's not what people see when they watch Bolinta walk.
No, it's a stick is just an extension, and so we block mid stick, but every time an attack comes, it's just something here I got to deal with and respond. And if you put it in the most layman context of that, whether it's a stick, an impact weapon, whatever, I'm still going to do the same movement and respond. So that's your defend one, defend two. So it was. I picked up Bolinta really fast, and because again of my experience with Datu, and I'm laughing because I'm a musician. I was a musician younger growing up, and Datu was the first martial artist that I encountered that actually talked about rhythm and rhythm breaks. If you hear me cornering a fight, if you listen to what I say to my fighter, I'll say break rhythm, break rhythm. And so they'll change their stance. So they might be traditional, and suddenly they start bobbing and weaving, and the person's like, I can't follow this guy. And I use those terminologies that I learned from Datu. So my cornering, even my teaching style, emulates a lot of the grandmasters that I'm under, and I've shown that in my fighters and in how I teach. Also, I'm laughing too because we talked about trapping and trapping. Datu mentioned it. When I was in Thailand, there's a golden era Muay Thai fighter. And those who are watching, who are Muay Thai guys, Dieselnoy. And Dieselnoy is known as the king of knees, and his knees are vicious. His clinch is vicious. But I got to touch hands with this guy, and again, some of these grandmasters and old timers, I guess you could say, have been doing things so long it becomes so natural in their movement that it's not even they don't even think about it. But he clinched up with me, and he just pulled my lead hand into his chest, and he trapped it, and then I just got stuck, and I'm like, this is trapping. This is hand trapping in Muay Thai. Damn it, he's got me. And then he just threw a couple of knees, and I'm like, but he didn't say anything. So I think sometimes, as the arts, and this is where I feel responsible in carrying on the legacies of people have taught me, and especially Datu's system, is you've got to take all these classical stuff, and really he explains it really well, because you'll have a guy like Datu who's a pioneer, and you may train with somebody, fly 17 hours and go to the old country of whatever country it is, and they'll show you stuff, and they'll say, do that 2,000 times, do this 500 times, or just do this, just do like this. And Datu's like, he'll break it down and go, this is why you're doing it. So the why and what you do is so important, because it makes your brain just go pop, and then you start realizing there's more to it. And that rhythm break, trapping hands, even in Muay Thai, we do it all the time. We do it all the time, and all it does is give my fighters an edge. But not only that, they're learning to be martial artists, and they don't even know they're learning FMA. So it's great. And whatever FMA you want to call it, JKD, again, doesn't really matter. It's stuff, like Datu said.
Is this? That makes a whole lot of sense to me. Just quickly chiming in, whenever I saw bolinta walk, and whenever I tried to stick fight with bolinta walk, first of all, I'm not an official practitioner or anything like that, but I always found it difficult. And I always found that the range that you guys are fighting in worked better for knives. So I'm also smiling, because I'm like, yes, I've only ever seen GM Bobby do knife work like maybe once. I know he translates it depending on the audience that's in place, but yeah, it was cool to hear Datu explain that bolinta walk is a knife system, and you kind of agree. There's so much hidden, right? Like, my next question, I have a bunch of questions. If somebody wanted to go to the NSI Water and Steel seminar, and they weren't that knowledgeable about martial arts, maybe they're just beginning, or somewhere in their journey, maybe they have one foundation, and now they're about to enter, this forum of incredible martial artists sharing, a lifetime of work. Like, what advice do you have for somebody going to an NSI Water and Steel event for the first time?
Well, the cool thing is, like, that's James right there. I think you got to meet James.
I love this guy.
I'm 6'2", and with his fro, he's about 6'5", right? And extremely skilled. He's got, a Hapkido background, something like that, but he trains with Ryan Massetti. And Ryan's been with Bobby. He's been with Tuhon, Grand Tuhon. A lot of time with Ramey. Ryan's been around. And then you take somebody like Sean Shuey, or you take somebody like Josh or Charlie. You're a beginner. Well, that's where Team Wartak comes in. There's your partner, man, and choose whichever one. Even Bob Anderson is like always partnering up. Dr. Brett, when he was still with us, partnering up. So you don't know who your partner is, but literally you're being taken by the stick or the arm or the knife, and you have, pretty much an advanced instructor, no matter which way you turn around, that is either being newly exposed, or he's there as Team Wartak is. And that's how I learned with Professor Prices. I just wandered throughout the camp, and whatever Ramey was teaching, I just pulled something up. The best way to get skilled is actually to teach. If you know one or two or three more things than the other guy, you're now processing information and making it work and going, oh, damn, you can answer your own questions and build your own methodology. I don't want to say that the black belt is a fallacy, but the black belt mindset is really what you want. And then when you least expect it, you're being acknowledged for what you've consumed. Katas and stylized templates from a certain methodology or a style is what, is your usual step-by-step grading. And then, oh, I got 9 katas, and now I get to move to the weapon katas, and then I'll have my black belt. Whereas in NSI or, progressive martial arts, you don't even realize it, that you're reaching black belt level,
Do you have an official ranking system? Oh, before I continue, Tuhon, Belton, advice for people who are going there for the first time or thinking about going there.
One thing Datu does, again, and like I said, I emulate his teaching style, is he says it in such a way that doesn't use terminologies or words that just confuse people. He'll say kind of like as if you're just doing this, or this movement just kind of mimics up walking or whatever, right? And so with Sean Shuey, like, because he mentioned Sean, he was a lacrosse player in college, and he's just like, dude, this stick stuff. I go, hold your lacrosse stick, man. It's staff. And he's just like, oh, and so Datu tends to do that a lot in his camps. And so instead of saying, we're going to work this, and then all of a sudden get into like Filipino words and very technical terms, he's just like, just point your foot out that way towards like 10 o'clock. And so it's a teaching style that really doesn't make you uncomfortable if you're a beginner, but as a high level practitioner, and again, I've been going to these camps for a long time, you'll always still pick up little things, and it's those little things that just enhance your art, and you're like, oh, that's right. And you kind of just do the whole, damn, how did I miss that? And it's always a wonderful experience. I mean, Josh is a full dog brother, and he came into NSI and Worden Defense as a dog brother, and he uses that stuff all the time. And then, we can keep going through all these other people, and going back to Datu's just teach. That's exactly what he told me to do. And I think there's been other podcasts where I told the story of how I've already been teaching Datu stuff. And, he said, bring your belt, because we had to do a demo, and your gi with these traditional practitioners. And I was confused why he wanted me to bring my Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu belt, but I never received rank. I never received a belt, and I never received my black belt, because he was like, bring your black belt, the one I gave you. I'm like, what black belt, Datu? You never gave me one. He's like, he's like, yeah, the one I gave you years ago. I go, Datu, you told me to teach, and that's it. So teaching reinforces what you learn, because you learn it twice, etc. You start exploring things, and your students asking you questions really challenge you as an instructor. And an egoless instructor will be like, that's a good question, and then really research their cause of their own ignorance, and then you just get better. And I've always been that way, because I'll take criticism, I'll take questions, and I'll research it, and it just makes me better. And I'll fall flat on my face, and I'm okay with that. The 24 techniques was that experience. Datu always constantly, if right when I think he's going to go there, he does something else. And I'm like, how come I didn't see that before? Or I remember that 3 years ago. And so, but it's so ingrained in his movement. And again, he explains things in such a manner that you're like, oh, okay, kind of like that, like sweeping the floor. It's just one of those things,
Well, on that note, it was Don Chaplin. He had passed away recently, but he was a red and white belt back when I was in Ishinru. So he trained with Tatsu Shimabuku directly in the Philippines, in Okinawa as a Marine. And anyway, he was bringing guys out of Canada, and these guys were all getting prepped for the World Karate Do tournament in Japan. So they were 4th, 5th degrees, maybe a couple 6th degrees. And, I didn't say anything to Belton, but we were teaching them interpretation of movement, of traditional movement. And after, at that time, Don Chaplin, I was like, we got to give Belton a black belt, because, he's teaching 4th and 5th degrees here, and they're also world champion level Karate Do practitioners. On that same note, we had another seminar, high level Kempo guy, 7th or 8th degree shows up, and I was like, Belton, you work with him. I didn't tell him who he was or anything else. And then at the end of the seminar, Belton's like, who was that guy? I said, 7th degree American Kempo. And, you know, compared to Belton, the guy didn't have a clue. If he wasn't doing Kempo, he was really in a confused state of movement. You know, just if you're doing inside block and a low block, it's palisade with attachment. If a guy is shooting on you, trying to do a double leg, and you sprawl him and you wedge him and you pass him into a crossface, you're now doing palisade. You know, different body mechanics. And when you crossface him, look at your hand postures. That's knife hand guard. You know, it's just that we're not looking at things to connect. We want the distinction because we become technique collectors, because each belt tells us we need 20 new techniques. Or next thing you know, we're not looking at the free flow. We're looking at the forced effort to duplicate or mimic or puppet. And that, you know, that's where I piss people off too, when they want to be JKD, so they're trying to move like Bruce. Jesse always said that, I don't know what you guys are doing, but you're not doing what Bruce did. But there's a Mahjong stance, and there's a lot of classical postures in JKD. Wah, you know. And so, hey, if you're that good at mimicking Bruce, just think how good you'd be if you mimicked yourself, meaning set yourself free from being a puppet of stylistic interpretation. And it comes when JKD is just as restrictive in what's JKD as what's JKA, Japanese Karate Association. So, you know, there's certain things that people judge you by, you know, like right lead. Why would you have a right lead if you're like me, Belton, and many of the soldiers I taught? You have a sidearm. You know, why would you put a right lead forward when that's your sidearm?
Correct.
Deployment, you know, so JKD don't function well that way if you're bound by a right lead. And gee, as soon as a guy goes to right lead, you're already giving away your game plan. You know, a videotape on the sidelines is telling people you're a trained practitioner. Anyway,
that's an excellent point. That's an excellent point. Most people are right-handed, which means they carry their primary, if pistol is primary, on the right side. Officers are trained to protect that as they're addressing subjects, as they're defending their weapon. But that's considered the primary. It's blowing my mind that you're incorporating JKD philosophy with law enforcement and duty carry, and how those things can be contradictory if you are cemented in this non-fluid philosophy. I love it. What is Belton's rank in NSI anyway?
I don't know. You'll have to ask him. I just signed a paper, baby. No, you know, well, he is the West Coast technical advisor, so he has that. You know, Jeff Johnsgaard is the international director of training, and
smart guy, super smart guy.
Yeah, and I've talked to him. He's actually at Fort Lewis this week, and then we have a course on the following weekend with some additional stuff. But he's working with TPD and a guy named Ken Murray, who's a real intellect when it comes to, you know, interpreting the law, and then your strategic approach to personal defense and logistics in movement. And you know, on that firearm with your primary, well, your primary is, as I approach this, you're a bodyguard 24/7. So if you're walking with your wife or anyone else, your child, do they have you hold of your right hand or your left hand? How do you reposition them? If there's a crowd coming, how do you position? How do you clear the crowd and protect them from being approached or anything else? It's the same thing with your firearm. So you're a bodyguard 24/7, meaning you can't take the time to engage somebody on a physical connection or confrontation until you're protecting yourself or whoever you're doing, you know, your control tactics to shield, you know. So there's a lot of things like that. Plus, you're a wounded bear. The guy's approaching you, you're already psychologically trying to interpret what is going on. They already got intent on their mind, so you're a half a step or two steps behind them. So you don't want to necessarily just blast the guy, even though if we were alone or even if we weren't alone, that would be the game plan when we're in our 30s or something like that. But there again, protecting your environment, knowing where you are 24/7. But yeah, you're a wounded bear, so you have to take that into effect that he's got intent on his mind. You're trying to strategically comprehend or figure out what he's doing at the same time. Emotionally or spiritually, you're also trying to protect yourself, protect your assets, protect your ability to go home and be with your family as opposed to engaging with this guy. And then next thing you know, your rent money or your house payment is going to a, bail bondsman or the courts, so that's being a bodyguard too.
Now, speaking of which, there are so many subject matter experts that specialize in their particular field. Mr. Anderson.
Wow, yeah.
Bob Anderson, right? You're talking about be your own bodyguard. But my question is, it's going to be directed at you, Datu, but I want to ask Tuhon Belton, what is it about Datu that allows himself to be surrounded by subject matter experts, arguably in subjects that they know more about, right? There's so many instructors gain a level of prominence and they want everybody to just be beneath them. It seems like Datu has surrounded himself, not with yes men, but with people who have specified bodies of knowledge that could exceed his in that particular realm. What allows him to be able to be that kind of a leader?
So
that's a rare.
I had a privilege to get on base and assist with Datu on first group, and being surrounded by was it hundreds, Datu? Hundreds of soldiers. And when Datu teaches something, I think what happens is he doesn't push an agenda on the art. He goes, okay, what is the need right now? And for them, they're deploying in 6 weeks. What can I do in a close quarter situation? Teach them some stuff that allows them to come back home to their families. And you do that for somebody, and he has testimonials of people say, thank you, they saved my life. You become an automatic expert. Datu doesn't have to be there. He helped bring them back because of knowledge. And knowledge, the whole knowledge is power thing. It's true. Here's a good case in point too. I'm not a pro Muay Thai fighter, but why in the Muay Thai world or my students exemplify what I teach them? Because I'm just guiding them to be the best version of themselves as a Muay Thai practitioner. But nobody goes Google Belton Muay Thai professional record. Right. And I have no qualms in saying, I have no issues saying, yeah, I don't. But you know what? I'm a damn good coach. And so Datu is a damn great martial arts instructor that would self-defense, real world self-defense, and seeing it from their lens and their eyes, and actually coming up with stuff that they need that people disregard. They've got gear on, they're in boots and they're in jeans. They're not going to be on their back grappling. They've got their primary, their secondary, and he'll blend it in. He'll think outside the box because that's what he does already. And when people see the product of what he teaches and the results, I think the results speak for themselves. And suddenly you take one result, 2 results, 3, 5, 600 results, and you become a subject matter expert. And so you can't really argue that after a while.
Datu, you've surrounded yourself with really great men and women. And they're not yes men. You know what I mean?
No. They're my equals without a doubt. It's interesting. So, like when I met Bob Anderson, I'm at a karate tournament. Jerry Goulds, who's a real famous Shorin-ryu guy, and so all the tournament, everything's going on down at that end, and there's this big dude at this end. And Bob was big at that time. He was lifting consistently and stuff, and so I was just walking down at the end of the gym, and I looked down. It was winter time. Well, what lands on his shoulder but a big bumblebee? I mean, pretty good size. One of those ones that's hibernating. The gym warmed up, and hey, it must be spring. So it's taken off and it lands on his shoulder as I'm walking by. Now, Bob is probably, I'm probably about a 180 at that time, and he's probably about 230. And I just walked up to him and slapped him on the shoulder, knocked the bee off his shoulder. And he's like, hey, I said, dude, there was a bee on your shoulder, right? And, goddamn, dude was big. I was like 180, I said, and he was like 6'3" and a half, 230, pretty intimidating. And he was like, you're that stick guy, aren't you? Yeah, man, I do sticks. He said, hey, would you come up to my school? So he's a longtime Kaju Kembo, a big time Kaju. And so that's how that started. I just started training, providing our knees. So same thing happened with Keating. Keating was training under Ernesto Praces and Guru Dan. And he came from Peter Urban and Gojo Ryu and Traco Kempo and that type of thing. So, but he wanted what Praces had. And so I went over there and I realized, dude, you got all this stuff that I don't have. Show me what you're doing. I'll show you what I'm doing. And bada bing. So we had our first warrior retreat. I brought both of them in and continued that path. Maurice Smith showed up. Burton Richardson showed up. Joe Simonette showed up. David Harris showed up. And I'm just giving them time on the floor because I just needed a little piece of something to stimulate me, and I'm just adding that up. Bruce didn't train in 26 different arts. He just took a little piece that activated, something he could integrate. I like it like Dr. Brett says, the Sambo wheel, we're the hub, and you're just adding a spoke, and that spoke is all you need. You don't need the complete art. That's why I think the term that Guru Dan is an anthropologist of martial movement. So you're not going to get to your JKD by studying the anthropology of all these arts and trying to complete each one. Only Guru Dan's going to do that. Nobody's going to catch up with him unless they got the same amount of years. But you could take that 1-2, that one technique, that fine spoke, and just say, hey, I'm missing firearms, get some. I'm missing knife, get some. I'm missing grappling. That's why I went with the American Sambo. I wasn't confronted with an agenda that I needed to be full BJJ. I just wanted to combat Sambo on concrete and how that applied to escapes and barroom brawling and flipping tables, throwing chairs, and avoiding that shit too. So, it's that. It's bringing other people in, letting them teach your students, and then I get the, I don't want to call it backwash. I just get the exposure to that, and then I get to assess it. I'm a slow learner. If I'm not getting smacked, I ain't learning. So I pick up through osmosis more than anything, and never did want anybody else's full system. So guys like Jesse Bastilio, Luki Trigg, Praces, Sonny Umpad, they were willingly just giving me spokes,
So can NSI, we were talking about a base system earlier. Can NSI be a base system for somebody?
Well, Belton, you can go with that, and then I'll answer it.
Yeah,
the Sabat, but go for it anyway.
Yeah, Datu does have a his manual actually. Am I frozen? I think
no, you're moving, dog.
Okay,
I hear you.
Datu has a manual, and he formulated the base foundation of what leads up to the expression of NSI. And so there is a base system from your foot trapping to your empty hand to your staff. And Datu goes a lot into staff. There's a lot of the stuff that comes out of staff, and he just has a magical way of showing where your boxing comes in with the staff, where your pala suits come with the staff, even abanicos. And so we tend to go to the staff a lot, and I kind of gravitate a little bit more towards the stick, but a lot of my students like Josh and Sean and are really loving the staff. And the way Datu expresses each component of, like, from the foot trapping, there's a sequence there, and it's in the manual. Your empty hand, your 6 count, your Sinawalis, it's all there, and then from that base system. But if you look at, like, even GM Bobby's, it's like same thing. You get level 1 through 6, and then guess what? Express yourself. The difference is Datu's expression comes like early on, and you just get it's it's kind of like if somebody kicked you in the water and you started swimming, and then Datu's kind of like, let me fix your stroke along the way. But there is a base system. At least that's the way I like to learn too. Datu calls it the fire hose. Datu, you call it the fire hose method. And so when you get blasted with all these concepts, it keeps sticking, and you start piecing it together. But
yeah,
yes,
are you saying yes, NSI can be somebody's, like boxing can be somebody's base system.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
Someone's base.
For sure.
NSI
So
be a base is what I'm asking. Yes,
yes. If you came in and you're raw, first thing, if you come in and you're raw, first thing I want to do is have you feel how hard you hit. Whether it's a slap or a overhand right or a hammer fist. Go like this. Now grab the guy by the back of the head and hammer fist him. Well, we already know what this is. You guys are masters of it. So I don't want to have to go there. Use your imagination. But the simplicity. So first, it's tool development. I want you to be able to strike any manner which way you feel is important, and explain that. Now I want you to be able to elbow. I want you to be able to knee. I want you to be able to stomp. See, so that's tool development. We take the style out of it, and you're just in engagement. Now I want you to learn how to stick, because the clinch is so important. And when you clinch, what can you do? You can thumb the guy in the eye. You can step on his foot, outbalance him. You can knee spike him in the thigh. It targets selection. That's the dirty dozen, or the double dirty dozen, or to make it more politically correct, the essential 24. So 24 hits, 24 movements. There's 22 foot traps. I don't bring them in the Jurus or in the Anyos. I just teach you how to foot trap and make it that simple, because you're closing on a guy, you step on his foot, he distracts, you slam his head into your chest plate or your elbow. All these methods of shortcuts were devised so that the soldiers, hey, how many of you guys have done this? How many of you guys have done this? How many people did karate and they raised their hand? How many threw it away because they felt it just wasn't alive enough? Okay, how many people want to see what it was really intended for? That's why I say good karate is good silat. Good Muay Thai is good knife fighting. I mean, they're just, and then again, back to the staff, just the basic essentials of body rotation, hit. The first weapon of mankind was probably maybe throwing rocks, but the real weapon was a spear or a lance or something that included double grip, long range weaponry. And no matter what technique you do out of a staff, I can relate it to knife or empty hand striking. A joint lock is really a staff rotation, a staff turn. Trapping hands is a figure 8. It's redondo. Staff work is a espada de ga. And, I sometimes wonder why certain Filipinos who are that diverse in their stick and knife and even their empty hand don't understand the real value of what staff brings, because people see staff and they're looking at Shotokan karate, bongsao, or Shotokan karate, or traditional bow staff, that type of stuff. So there you go, man.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
And what Datu's talking about is, he's the shortcut. He used the term shortcut, and I don't even know if that's truly the word. I think what Datu did is grab the essentials of what was applicable and what he saw value in. Like I said, I'm not going to spend 10 years doing silat. I'm not going to spend 5 years doing silat. But in his system, in our system, the foot trapping, the sequence that he has is just enough and applicable and the base foundation of what we need. And then you have the boxing. He's not going into like Mayweather, this and that position, or like a different guard. It's just basic boxing, And so we have all these bits and pieces that creates that system to where we see value in expressing it to where we can apply it in real world self-defense and in expression of the art. And then if you notice, even if you look at that little tidbit that I just did, that's the interior line roll. And then I went into something else because I already had that base with the Datu. And then from there, I went into a different sequence, and it's just an expression. And that's exactly what camp's about right there. So Datu stuff was there. And then all of a sudden I kind of went flowered out of it into a different sequence. And, but yet that is a Datu thing too. So it's kind of like the stuff we do is a nice umbrella for a lot of things, but the base foundation is still there. So you got the interior line roll, there's your sticking hands, and then suddenly,
Well, when we look at Paulo, I'm just amazed at your deployment. We don't know you got a knife under your shirt. Next thing you know, you're popping your shirt up. You're coming into a deployment. That's just swinging gait. Yep. Drawing a firearm is swinging gait too, or even traditional karate, because we clear the shirt, we extend the lead hand as an eye jab or a push. Well, how is that not traditional karate? So again, we need to give more credit to the structured arts. They were alive, and what made them static was teaching Westerners and taking the karate jitsu away, the intent away, because it was a defeated culture. But it was karate spirit, karate do, that allowed that defeated culture to be re-embraced for not only the beauty of the art, but to balance the emotional duress of having been defeated and not being angry about it, because anger is just going to bring in another element of destruction emotionally for you. So, karate do replaced karate jitsu. Karate jitsu was so intentful that it created the kamikaze warrior mindset. And that's what Filipino martial arts or the fighting arts, when you blend them, allows you to integrate that spiritual stuff. I mean, people say I'm real spooky when I grab a knife, but I have to be, because knife brings that level into you. So how you cultivate your art is really about what makes that art come alive. So
I just saw Datu in that video. I just saw Sunny Umpad release. I saw attack by draw. I saw attack by combination, and I'm not even thinking about it anymore. It's just, it was all there.
Yeah, and I told you when we were on the back porch of the cabin there that this was all fencing, and it wasn't that it was like, this is fencing, see me fencing? No, I'm using the fencing strategies. That's what Bruce did. He said, how can I apply these, multi-leveled conceptual ideals that have been around for centuries or a long, long time, whether they were terminated or use that terminology, but attack by draw. Hey, I don't want any trouble. I'm drawing your emotions down. Hey, single direct attack. Well, if I could neutralize you, that single direct attack is now leading to attack by combination. What's an attack by combination? It is multiple hits on a line that has symmetry. You can recognize that. What's a progressive indirect attack? It's an attack by combination that deviates lines. Like just initially, we were going to that swinging straight punch. Then I did the nut shot. Then I come in with a number 3, which off of a single Sinawali would be an ear clap. Then I repositioned myself to center guard, but I'm holding on to him. I'm still like attached in what would be a chi sao interior engagement position, but I'm manipulating the head and the shoulders. It's still the same posture. So, it's all those things. Single direct attack, attack by draw. Immobilization attack doesn't mean I have to trap you. I'm distracting you. That temporarily immobilizes your intent. So, each one oftentimes in JKD is taught as a singular component, but each one is actually attached, and even my single direct attack, if I don't feel it's valid, now goes into a progressive indirect attack, which allows me now to immobilize attack and then use a single direct attack again, or an attack by combination that has symmetry, because I can throw a jab, cross, hook, uppercut, boom, Muay Thai leg kick, a side or an elbow, all based on flow and instinct. The 5 strategies of attack can be utilized in anything and tied together with any 5 strategies of attack. Man, you could plan your nightclub movement on a hottie with 5 strategies of attack. Single direct attack is, hey babe, what's happening? Or hey young lady, how are you? Can I open that door for you? You've already opened that first line. And I scored on my wife Vivian with 5 strategies of attack, man. Took that girl down, So anyway.
Again, I want to reiterate that anybody who registers for this year's Water and Steel seminar will get this full documentation of when I was there on number 39. I think this is worth the price of admission in and of itself, let alone the actual event. I just noticed this pose here. I'm not sure if you guys can see this. This is from day 2, chapter 8 in that documentation, and it's about hidden lessons in staff work. This is one of my favorite chapters in this documentation. And I'm just noticing how you have that staff looks a little Philly shellish,
Philly shell, and Silat and the Dog Brothers call that the dog catcher.
Yeah.
I mean, it's all there. See, that's what I mean. You go to the other seminars and I'm saying, oh, I recognize that movement.
Yeah.
And, have you done this before? I'm like, sure. It's just interesting. Like,
because I'm an NSI guy. Like this.
Hey,
this is staff work too, isn't it? When it comes to there's elbows here, isn't there?
Yeah, exactly.
Come on. What do you got?
I taught all that stuff to First Special Forces. We used a 4-foot rattan staff. I taught machete. I taught knife. I taught double knife. I taught gung fu, and it just continued to build based on who was attending, when they were attending, where they were being deployed.
Right.
Rain, sleet, or snow. I mean, we were literally coming right out of the ice and the snow into building entrances with tile floors, and literally to regain our balance when we manhandle somebody, we're throwing them through the Coke machine. I mean, we did a lot of damage. We were in the motor pool. Can you imagine how slick that concrete is with wet boots? And there's a Humvee over there, the motor's pulled, and there's grease and oil, and hey man, around cyclone fences, all kinds of shit. 3-star General Brian Brown came when I was doing the motor pool, and he coined me. He's like, Jesus, and his bodyguards were like, oh, don't get close to Colonel Brown. He goes, General Brown said, if Mr. Worden wanted me, you guys would already be on the floor. So shut the fuck up, get out of the way, and let me talk to the man. I mean, it was just cool stuff. I mean,
super cool, man.
The military educated me how I could teach them. How can I teach you? And, when I got there, Professor Alonso, Marcelo Alonso was there. There's 60 guys on the mats. And I said, hey, guys, we're not doing mats. So we went out in the parking lot. It was raining. We were around dumpsters and Humvees. And I just transitioned all the training to where it was outdoors. And, it was important to deal with the reality that we're not going to be on mats. We're not barefooted. What are you guys doing barefoot? It ain't going to happen. So, everything, I'm doing empty hand staff now, it looks like. Okay.
This is what I think. First of all, I want to say thank you, Datu, for. I mean, this event was transformative for me. I came in as this loudmouth newcomer into martial arts, thinking I had all these opinions and I was sure of myself. And then I go to this event, and it was really what I would consider the launching point for my broadening of perspective. I look at you in this still shot. You can see somebody might say, "Oh, that's kung fu. That's some sort of an animal form." And then you see Staff, Charlie there, and then I can see that as, you know, a bayonet strike, right? I can see that as a fencing lunge. So that was really like the beginning for me of being able to see and appreciate different perspectives and seeing what I need from something that I may have thrown away. So I think the NSI Water and Steel is super, super. It's a super important seminar. If you're a traditional martial artist, if you're a combatives guy, if you're an MMA guy, if you are a tactical professional in security, law enforcement, if you have the right mentality, this is really a transformative event. I think it should be on everybody's bucket list to attend it at least once.
I think that discussion you had with Bob over a beer that night, people really need to listen to what Mr. Anderson had to say. And, you know, I mean, he took over, when he was head of security for Johnson & Johnson, he moved $500 million worth of rare art from New Jersey to to Castle Warsaw. You know, that's the logistics of planes, temperature controlled convoy trucks, support teams in Europe, all kinds of stuff, man. That guy is, you know, he's been bodyguard for Oliver North, Lech Walesa, King of Morocco. Lech Walesa was the president of Poland at that time, King of Morocco, Harrison Ford. And you'd never know it's sitting with him.
Yeah.
Dude ain't got no ego. And, you know, I wouldn't want to step out on the floor with him. And thankfully I don't have to, because we've been together 45 years, man. And it was our niece that brought us together, the diversity of it. His Kaji Kembo is, you know, second to none. You know, this right now we're watching this empty hand staff, and how do you interpret a cross block with a staff? Well, that's where your crusada comes in. And crusada isn't static, it's alive. And is it a cross block, or is it a bong sao and a seeking hand? You know, people have misinterpreted structure for so long that it, you know, yeah, I know. And that's some of the priceless shit with some of the C-lot integrated into it. And, you know, and I was an outlaw when I was in Modern Arnis. I pissed off everybody. And now they're trying to do what I do. They try to do what I do, you know? So.
Datu, during this event, you were also getting over some physical and health stuff. Now,
nobody even knows it. Nobody even knows that shit, man. You know, I had an ear infection in 2015, and they gave me a medication I was allergic to. Within 4 days, I had total renal failure. So I went into dialysis. I went into a lot of stuff. I'm getting medvac from the Tacoma hospital here, and the guy that's loading me up into the, wow, look at that mobility. That's a
crazy. Considering what you were going through.
Yeah, that's a 3-step change lead from Sugar Ray Seals' group when the Seals was still fighting pro and we ran a gym. But getting back to the hospital transition, they were medvacing me to UW, and just I mean, I was sick from dirty blood. Belton could tell you how fucked up I was, but literally I can remember the EMT going, whatever you do, let's get this guy safely to the hospital. If it wasn't for him, I wouldn't have survived Afghanistan, you know? So just interesting stuff. So I got up to UW. They finally got me on dialysis, cleaning me up. And then I was all going on chemo. I was up at that hospital. I mean, I was fucked up. I told Belton, I said, I know you got a gun in your car. I'm going to hit you. And I want that gun because I'm ending this shit. And, you know, because, I mean, I was sick and I was close to dead. I gained up into 300 pounds because it was all water weight and my bloodstream was poisoned and all that. So anyway, I went in and got chemo, and they stacked me with multiple chemos, gave me neuropathy in my feet so bad I still can't feel them. I'm just know where my balance is, and my feet are really, really bad, and so still today. So the chemo really destroyed my feet, but my balance is what keeps me moving and being mobile.
Hey man, Datu was dangerous even in the hospital.
Yeah, I
So,
bet. I bet he was
I
like,
was holding his hand, right? And I was falling asleep because I rotated between Sean and I, like leaving at 5 in the morning, and Sean would come in. I could teach class at my gym, and I let go for a moment, and he backfisted so fast, and I went pop, and I just grabbed his hand, and I just brought it back down, and I remember one time they were like, "We're gonna call it code. Was it code brown, code blue? What was it, Datu? Code?"
Yeah, you're asking the wrong guy, man.
Okay, so there's a code they call and they had orderlies out there, some like the security guards, and the guy goes, "Hey, you need to comply, sir," and he's just like, and they said they had 13 guys or 12 guys or whatever, and Datu goes, "That's fine. I'll take out 5. Belton will take out 5, and Sean will take out the other, the other." And so I told him, I go, "Hey guys, really, all those guys standing out the door right now, that's not a good idea. You get them the fuck out because it's not going to go pretty in this room right now." So and then they brought in a nurse that actually had military background, and he came in and just talked to Datu in such a way that that Datu understood that language. "Sir, da 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 da. I hear you're a fucking badass." Da, da. He's like, "Yeah, da da." Kind of toned him down a bit, but I said, that visual of all those men standing out there is not a good idea. I go, "Get the fuck out right now." So then I guess they Googled who he was, and suddenly all the nurses were like,
shit, okay.
Shit.
No.
Like, oh shit. Yeah.
But yeah, so after the chemo didn't work, and so it was 2017. So I went to about 2 years worth of that bullshit, and so 2017 on Halloween night, they gave me a bone marrow stem cell transplant. Well, what it was the medication they gave me caused a rare blood reaction. So my blood was crystallizing. I was 1 in 20 million people. Even the Mayo Clinic couldn't figure it out. My blood was crystallizing. That's why my kidneys dysfunction. The blood couldn't get through the kidneys. And so I did the stem cell transplant, and then I recovered from that. A month later, one of my senior students, his mother-in-law, did the stem cell transplant. Within a month, she had passed away. So it's not guaranteed. So now that was 2017 December. Or actually October 28, 2017. And so now it's been 5-6 years since I've been on recovery. I still have the neuropathy in my feet. I still do blood work every 6 months to see what's going on. My kidney function is about 35%. I don't notice it. I just don't drink alcohol, and I try to restrict my adrenal overloads. I am teaching at GM Bobby's camp again this year. Last year he had me teach knife. This year I'm going to surprise people and teach empty hand, probably for my own preservation, because I get a knife in my hand and I'm just like crouch position and ready to rock. So yeah, I may interpret it or translate it to knife, but so much of everything is everything. And I teach knife out of staff, and because of the gross body mechanics. Knife could be so small, but when you do staff, you're generating that full body action and full body movement. And like I said, knife is a spot of the ga. You have your lead weapon when you transition with a pendulum step to activate your short blade. Dude, you're just doing staff work, and disengaging. There's your staff hit, there's your back cut, there's your rotation, and then you're getting full body mechanics as opposed to just arm movement. Again, I can and I see that shit today, and I was like, yeah, I put that video out in 1988. Now you guys are just getting up to it, I mean,
I
but
know.
that's okay. I'm glad with that. I just love to see people expand their self, development. So yeah, cool, man.
What a special event. You know what I noticed just watching the background here with Tuhon Belton teaching knife boxing? I see women. I see what look like mothers, older guys, some rough looking dudes, some big giants of men. This is really everybody's welcome at this event, right? Look at this. Look at that mean looking guy in the background. Look at this guy. Holy smokes. But yeah, Datu, anyone can come.
Oh yeah. Belton's probably the best one to answer that. I'm just there facilitating. And of course Jeff Johnsgard is usually the one that's coordinating who's going up and who's doing what. And yeah, I mean, all these guys are a blessing. That's Team Wartac. And what does Wartac stands for? Worden Tactical. So, and then we're all natural spirits. So it's interesting that, well, what is the name of the group? Well, we do natural spirit, principles of natural mobility, attribute development. The technical and tactical group, the guys that are, bridging and closing, that's the Worden Tactical. And there's pieces of each pie that literally fit into, your base system. Your base system is like a college course. Not everybody's going to have this major. So what's your major? What's your minor? Okay. How do you build that? So I got guys that major in Muay Thai. Well, add Wing Chun, add some Sambo, add some knife boxing, boom, boom, boom. Their major is 20 years of Taekwondo. Well, we know you got the kicking art. Let's transition that to a Muay Thai mindset. Now let's go to your Wing Chun. Let's teach your boxing and let's get some stick and knife going. You see, so you're building that curriculum literally like a college course, your majors and your minors. And it doesn't matter what your major is, because your minor is going to pick it up. And, that's another thing I don't think people understood about why Bruce did what he did. It was so he could recognize the dude coming, by his stance work, his base posture, his ready position. You can recognize what strategy a guy is by. Is he here with, looks like Muay Thai to me? Is he crouching? It looks like grappling or wrestling to me. That type of thing. It looks like Silat to me. It looks like karate to me. So, you're learning those things so you understand how those different arts are going to interact with you on a defensive way. Right. He had to teach Jesse and Ed how to attack him because they didn't know anything about Choi Lafut, Hungar, Mantis, Wing Chun, the different arts. So Bruce would say, well, here's this, attack this. So when he said form had no value, we're all going, oh, form has no value. It had no value for him. Who were Bruce's early students? A lot of them were Ed Parker Kempo, including Eno Santo. So when you look at that, you look at a Kempo guy, they're all standing like Elvis Presley. And they give it away with their staccato type actions. And so you become predictable. No different than JKD when you get in a right side lead stance. You're standing just like Bruce Lee, only you're 235 pounds and you don't move like Bruce. So you're predictable, and so's your posture, and so's your technical elements that you can do and move from that posture of movement, because you've recognized what those skill sets are and what technique can he initiate from. So reading weight displacement and all that stuff allows you to understand the limitations of who you're facing, or the strong points too. Anyway, there you go.
Tuhon. Yeah, I think my initial question was, can anyone come to this
Oh yeah. No, there's no doubt about it. I mean, like I said, you're walking in there and you've got somebody like Belton or Sean Shuey or Bob Anderson as your point guy.
I mean, I can understand if somebody might look at this stuff and feel a little intimidated. Look at these two animals here just doing knife boxing. But then you see that lady in the background. She's wearing purple and like a sun hat. It is really, truly like a welcoming environment, right? Tuhon, what do you think?
Oh, it's great. I'm just Datu's talking and I'm watching this clip and I'm like, oh,
Look at that lady in the background. Look at her. There's two of them.
Oh, I think those are the girls from Calgary, Canada.
They're
I
so
think
into it.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Those are the Calgary, Canada girls.
I love it. Yeah. So even Canadians are welcome. That's great.
Oh yeah.
only a dozen. We can only handle 12.
There's a quota. There's a Canadian quota. What an awesome.
It's funny. You'll probably like the story, Paulo. I was having some guys working some traditional classical lines, and the Muay Thai class is coming in, and one of the students never fought before. I just grabbed him and I said, "Hey, they're doing some knife stuff, gunting, things like that." I go, here's a cert knife. I go, jab his chest or uppercut his belly. So basically a stab and a thrust. And I told the knife guys, I go, hey, here you go. Here's some cert knives. Defend. And the guy goes, Muay Thai goes, so just jab. I go, and uppercut. I go, yeah, as fast as you can. Those the FMA guys were like, what the fuck? They just
dude.
Died. And they were so shocked. And I went, look, man, I know I sound like it seemed like I just kind of shitted on the technique I just showed you on the gunting to the pass to the this to the that. And I go, but here's the deal. I just wanted you to see that. And I go, that guy never fought. He's new. He's all he knows is the jab. And so they couldn't do that fast enough. And they got stabbed in the chest and thrust in the belly because that's just an uppercut and it's just a low line attack. And I go, that's all the guy needed to learn. And I made that point really clear on all the guys that were doing the knife class. And then I just said, okay, all right, guys, I'll see you in Muay Thai in a little bit. And then they were just like, aren't you going to help us figure that out? I was like, no, I just wanted you to see it.
On that point, Tuhon, I think when you explore a variety of arts and you have the Datu Kelly NSI engine pulsing through your exploration, there is a built-in honesty filter that you just cannot escape. Because when you train boxing and you see the speed of these strikes and you see their distance management, and then you do knife, you can't help but go, holy shit, what if that knife strike was at that boxing speed? And then you train a little bit of Muay Thai and be like, okay, well, certain defenses in Filipino martial arts may be inappropriate for a full-on swing kick from Thai buddy over there, right? And so this NSI mentality, this philosophy, really has like a default built-in bullshit filter.
If you look at the back there's a tub, a black tub right there behind the lady.
Yeah,
you see
I see it. Yeah.
Every camp we have mitts available. So and I'm not trying to diss on any other camp or seminars out there. I'm sure, and I've seen mitts come out. I've seen boxing stuff come out in some camps, but every camp for how many years, there's always mitts. So Dr. Kelly is one of those camps that I can say with 100% that 100% every year we're doing empty hand in terms of like boxing format, because I know in that box, because I personally opened that box and passed out focus mitts, we work on focus mitts. So you tell me what other FMA seminar camp breaks out the focus mitts as much as that, and then there might be. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm just saying. I've been to a lot of seminars, and it's always knife, and then it's just knife.
My knife seminars have mitts for sure. Yours do. Datu's, but I mean, that's a big sign. That black box with the mitts. Man, once you go boxing speed and boxing intention with knife, again, built-in humility filter, man. Like,
and there's Muay Thai right there. There's Muay Thai. See the clinch, the trap. There's the trap. There's head control. There's a knee, and then suddenly range management.
Yeah,
see all range management. So,
man, I wish I could go this year. Damn it. This is really an amazing event, you guys. Everybody needs to go to this. Anyway.
Well, I actually wish you could be here too, because, I just felt, my recovery was just, dang, not even a year and a half out of extreme chemo. Because, when you get a stem cell transplant, it's chemo straight into your spine. They destroy your immune system, and then they reactivate it with new stem cells. So they took mine and centrifuged them, removed all the stuff. It's actually amazing when you look at how they do. Now, a lot of times they use donors, but they didn't use a donor for me because there wasn't anybody in my family healthy enough to, they all had some other issue going on, age, including older age. So they took the chance and did the centrifuge, got rid of that cell. Like I said, 1 in 20 million had this weird ass cancer that I had. And so they removed that and then inserted my other stuff. They call that rebirth, so wow. But yeah, I was only a year and a half in recovery, and I gained a lot of weight. Shit, I mean, when the kidney failure went, I had almost 300 pounds of water weight, and as a matter of fact, that's when I tried to rip the catheter out of my neck. Sean Shuey was there, and my feet turned black. And it felt like a torch on my feet, and they wouldn't give me any more pain meds because they thought it was going to stop my heart. So I oh, that's okay, doc or nurse, whoever was there. And as soon as they turned their back, I grabbed my catheter and started ripping it out. And I was like, fuck you. And Shuey jumped on top of me. I kicked him in the face. Then that's when I had something like 12 people holding me down. And then I got strapped down. I just struggled because I figured, well, fuck it. I'm in bad shape. I'll just have a heart attack. So I kept fighting and fighting for like 30 minutes and kept screaming my social security number, my driver's license number, my anything you could imagine. I was going, I'm of a sane mind and I invoke the right to die. Get the fuck off of me. And I mean, I was done with that. And well, I guess I'm glad that they held me down and I had an opportunity to get the stem cell transplant. I was delusional. Shit, my old lady says I'm still delusional, but I'm getting better every day. But like I said, I wish you were here because my game's that much cleaner and crisper. And again, and that it's not necessarily, hey, I'm 70 years old, but I'm still moving pretty efficiently. But my thinking and clarity on how I teach and how I now assess and analyze other people's movement, that's really the gift that I am passing on in my current status as a 70-year-old dude.
It was really shocking for me to have discovered, how much pain you were in and what you had just gone through, and still perform in the way that you did. I mean, I couldn't tell that you were less than sharp. I mean, that was my first time seeing you as well, but I mean, that must have been exhausting for you, that documentation. This is it's a special one to have documented, I think.
Yeah, I crashed pretty hard, man. Adrenaline just douches me out, and that's I call it seminar stress recovery, and adrenal stress recovery. And that's, you're so amped up and you crash really hard. And that's one thing a lot of people don't understand, why people drink or do drugs or whatever, professional athletes, because, even professional actors, because they're transitioning into something else, and the adrenaline, the euphoric high is so great, but you're exhausted. So you're trying to recover that euphoric level. So, drugs did help, alcohol did help, but then you tumble hard after that. So, today, dude, you know what? I'm so clean now, I can't even go back to my old neighborhood. They'll think I'm an undercover cop. Warden's clean. What's going on with Worden? I mean, it's like, yeah, old school. You wouldn't find me without a doob, a shot of tequila, and a 6-pack of beer. That's just getting warmed up, and it is what it is, man. I'm not ashamed of it, but I can educate people to improve their life skills and values and their emotional stability without any dependency. So I think that that's a positive aspect of walking the path and living full circle.
Sure.
If it wasn't for martial arts, dudes, I'd be in prison or dead. And it's not that I was a bad guy. It's just that your environment and your neighborhood guides you to how you're going to survive in that environment. So, you go along or you resist. And, it was martial arts that led me to leave the body shop, fumes and paint stuff, smoke a joint and go, hey, I need to clear myself of that, and then go train for 3 hours doing hard style martial arts. And, then I learned to, adapt from there. And, so yeah, it's self-admission of what goes on in society, and hopefully, people could say, oh wow, Worden went through all that shit, man, maybe there's hope for me, and I say that there's critics on everything you do in martial arts. It's like, well, I did everything I did without anything. I don't even have a high school diploma, but I developed this methodology and taught police officers and other guys that are, high level martial artists and very intellectual guys like Dr. Brett and Professor Trigg and Professor Anderson. Why do they come for me? I have the raw essentials. And sometimes that's the one thing that's missing from guys that are great technicians. Is like, dude, if you ever, hey, Dan Severin, I had him on my radio show, but I met him at the SHOT Show. And Dr. Brett said, if you see Severin, tell him I said hi. They wrestled together. There was a UFC coming here to the Tacoma area. And they said, hey, if you see Severin, see if he'll do the radio show. I had the guy promoting it on the radio show. And he says, yeah, we're bringing Severin in to be a seminar guest and our celebrity for the UFC here. So I walked up to Severin. He just won his 13th, 11th world championship. I walked up to him. It was a chicken shit move, but it was one that I've had happen to me. Reach out to shake his hand. Hey, aren't you Dan Severin? When he went to shake my hand, I hand trapped him, closed him up, trapped him, pulled my travel wrench, stuck it under his chin and foot trapped him. And he's like, what are you doing? I said, it's called assault, Dan. Serious fucking assault. And then I backed up and said, no, just Kelly Worden from Tacoma, man, just fucking with you. And he was like, I thought, shook him up. He said, I thought you were for real. I said, no, Dan, if I was for real, I'd spit in your face and slam your head in that glass display case. And he's like, dude, you need to switch to decaf. And I says, yeah, maybe so, but you need to switch to reality. And he's like, well, what do you mean by that? I says, you know what? I'm a personal defense instructor. I don't appreciate sports practitioners coming into the law enforcement and the military community because they're popular and teaching guys to go to the ground. You should be teaching us not to go to the ground. I says that's contradictory to, weapon retention, and even common sense in a concrete world, And he's like, oh, damn, I've never been in a real fight. I said, well, I tell you what, I'm going to Calgary. You owe it to yourself to shave that fucking mustache off and roll up to Calgary. We'll go to a couple bars. Nobody will shank you or shoot you, but we'll get in a couple knuckle busters. And he's like, oh, that's not going to happen. And, and I wasn't being critical. So, Then we started talking and sharing stories, and I said, hey, would you do a radio show with me? I said, you're coming to Tacoma for the UFC, and he did. And I called him on the confrontational stuff, and really that's attack by draw. I just said, here's my hand. when he went to shake my hand, hand trap, boom, travel wrench. What the fuck is this? Well, hey, if I know you're a badass, do you think I'm going to come up and, and I got a beef with you? Maybe you kicked my buddy's ass. Remember the early UFCs with Tank Abbott, some of those guys? A couple dudes got jumped in the elevator because they beat somebody's ass, and people took the early UFCs more, personal, because those were some downright dirty beatings that, people were outclassed or whatever. But nonetheless, shit happens. I might have banged your old lady or, something 20 years ago, and you just had a chance to confront me. So that's environmental control, and that's urban warfare, man, straight up off the street. But so anyway, I go to the UFC, and I rolled in with a couple guys who were a little bit thuggish, but I separated, and I see Dan, and I walk over towards him, and he moves behind his table, and he plants his hand and reaches out to shake my hand. He's like, "Mr. Worden." I'm like, "Oh, you remembered my name?" He goes, "Oh, I did a little bit of research on you." And, and when we shook hands, I kind of pulled him like I was going to pull him over the table. He's like, "Now knock that shit off, man. I just want to say hi." And, it's all cool. But, in the mat, shit, I wouldn't have a chance against Stan Severin. But in the parking lot or in an environment where I could flip a table chair or spit in his face, well, it's a different world, and so that's the world I try to prepare people for.
Yeah, what's interesting is some of these cats like Datu and some of these older guys, they real world pressure tested their system. And nowadays, in this day and age, we talk about pressure testing. I know it's a topic that kind of hit the social media world for a while. And I'm like, look, you don't have to grow up like Datu. You don't have to grow up like me, because I did grow up in a certain way too. But spar somebody, put some fucking boxing gloves on, spar a guy, get in uncomfortable positions instead of just going out there and just showing pretty cool techniques. So I'm a fan of pressure testing, and what Datu's talking about is he really did pressure test it. So when he speaks, and he speaks from that wisdom, a lot of people don't realize that, hey, I don't want to go through Datu's life. I don't want to have that, but educate me, Datu. And so that's one of the reasons why I'm with him.
Well, so much of pressure testing can be fabricated to create an outcome that supports our biases, right? Like if I think that this technique works, I can create a pressure testing condition that will ensure that it is successful. So sparring, competition, or in Datu's case, just getting out there and fucking messing around with people. that's the kind of pressure testing where the outcome isn't guaranteed, and that's real pressure testing. But listen, guys, thank you so much for your time. Let's do this again. Again, this was about just getting people's heads into the possibility of making it out. And what is this?
This is a modified Wartac I just finished. Actually, it looks real cool.
What is that?
Attached to one of the machete. I'm doing leather too, so this is one of the machete sheaths for the Worden machete. So one of the last ones I've done here recently.
Like a zombie
and,
kill.
Yeah, but this Wartac here,
I like that,
is pretty spooky, and just finish it. So yeah, I'm transitioning. I'm teaching privately at the home, and doing small workshops, that type of stuff. And but I'm really digging making knives and doing that type of stuff. So I've had different models done by Almar, Paragon, Tops, Edge Technology Engineering, Timberline, different companies like that. But man, I'm really enjoying making my own knives and building off them. So yeah,
that is awesome. That's awesome. Well, guys, I mean, you know what? I'm going to share this website because I'm kind of impressed by your new website here. The old website, no offense to the old website,
Oh yeah, no man, shit.
No offense to the old website, but this new website is pretty slick, man. The old website was kind of, early 90s vibe. It's modernized. So you can get all of your DVDs here. You can get the travel range. It doesn't look like you can get your nine.
Uh,
Oh wait, oh
you
nine.
know, they're linked in there. You can go inside there, and yeah, I mean, I don't put
Yeah.
my, if I'm making knives, I can only move so fast, so I don't take advance orders. I just put you on a list, and you know, I'll let people know when I've got certain knives done. But most of them are bought and sold. Bought before I'm even done with them. As soon as they realize I'm making this one or that one, and
That's the
you
way to
know,
go.
yeah, which is cool. But I wish I was, faster in my production. But that's a learning curve. I've got a knife guru that teaches me that. He was actually trained by Butch Vallotton. Butch Vallotton was one of the guys that trained Ken Onion, and Butch is no longer with us, but his son Rainey is. And look at that, the impact weapons, man. That travel wrench has been around for 25, 30 years.
I'm still
And
trying to figure it out.
yeah, Belton's the man. He plays it, and it really was designed to teach people knife techniques without teaching them the knife.
Maybe that's how
So
I'll approach it. I think that's how I'll approach. I'm not a big Kubaton kind of handheld impact thing, but I think that's good advice to kind of use the travel wrench as a
yeah,
catalyst to
line familiarization, close quarter. It's arnis, it's knife, it's boxing. Uh, it's probably one of the most copied designs. People come up with these little twists and turns, but I gave that to Ernie Emerson before he came out with his karambit. I gave it to Steve Tarani before he came out with his. And people wanted me to make a bladed karambit, and I was like, no, I won't do a bladed karambit because we're having enough trouble just being able to carry a small folder. And I think a karambit against a police officer, you got no choice but to shoot the son of a bitch. You don't really want to go close quarter, hands to hand. So it's a very covert weapon. It's a malicious weapon. There's only one thing you can do with it, and you ain't trimming your toenails. So, I'm concerned about, our social stability. I mean, I've told that to Professor Trigg. Hey, man, what's with this? I'm socially responsible. I'm morally, tempered. None of that shit made any sense to me 20, 30 years ago. But today I'm more concerned with our sociological and our society and the safety of people today. But boy, the karambit in the wrong hands, a blade in the wrong hands, all that stuff is just, it's spooky,
very cool.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm just sorry. Your website's amazing. This is a great, guys. Check out the website. It's really good. Yeah, well, I can just stay here and hang out for a little while, just perusing the website. But
Yeah.
I got to get going for now, gentlemen.
Well, you ought to adjust your schedule, change that shit around, and come to Water and Steel this year.
Water and Steel, Paulo.
I'll be there.
I'm tempted. Let me go see what I can do. But guys, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Hope the viewers enjoyed. We'll talk again. We'll do maybe a debrief after.
Oh, yeah.
We'll share some of your footage with the group, and we'll take it.
Yeah, actually, that'd be cool, man. We could do that. We could pull that together.
Sounds awesome. All right, guys.
Okay.
Have a great night. Thank you for being here.
Be
Thanks
well. Yep.
Peace. Whew. All right, man. That was cool. It's always good talking to these two guys, man. Again, you guys know I travel the world. You guys know I attend a whole bunch of seminars, and I'm not like a paid sponsor of the NSI Water and Steel event, but it is definitely like one of the best that I've ever been to, for the people, for the content, just for the environment. You're on this like island, you sleep in this the sleeping quarters are very comfortable, but it's got like a camp vibe to it. The food is great. The after-hour stuff that happens with these incredible martial artists. You guys know what's up, man. Those after hours when somebody, brings a 12 pack and you just chatting, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, what do you think about this move? Those are, I mean, worth the price of admission, just the after hour stuff. So check out wardendefense.com. And then if this is your first time going to Water and Steel, and for some reason I had anything to do with, convincing you to go or exposing you to it, just send me a message, and then I can tell you, like, I told you so. I told you so. This is an event not to be missed. And put it on your bucket list. If you can't make it out this year, make it out at some point. All right, guys. Thanks so much for watching. And I'll see you guys.